I'm hoping that everybody joins us that's been a part of this. The reason for that is this is the last session, as you know, and the purpose of what we're doing today isn't to finalize things. It's actually to get things started. You guys have been a great part of helping us to kind of see what's working, what's not working. I've mostly been up here talking about what we're trying to do, and then we get feedback from you sometimes via email. I apologize if I didn't give you enough time during the sessions to actually give us direct feedback. So what we would like to do, and Eric, who's with us from Florida, is going to be a part of this, as well as Braden, obviously, is that we want to continue to have live sessions, but instead of it being me, they will be hosting it, and it'll be directly about specific topics within what we're trying to accomplish in the system and through those balls that we're juggling through the life cycle, all the things that basically constitute Captivate coaching and the CRM. And those will be more of open floor discussions instead of, then they're not going to be teaching you unless you ask a question. You're like, how do I do this? And they teach you that. It's going to be more about you directly saying, I'm trying to do this, or whatever the topic's about, right? Because we want to make sure that you are able to manage what you're trying to do within the system. We've had a lot of people come back and say, oh, I've got a lead source that's coming in, for example. I think it was Mark Fay that said this. And I've got a lead source coming in. I have buyer leads and seller leads coming in. So I want the system to be smart enough to know which is which so that it can send them the appropriate smart plan. And because it's coming from a particular source, I want that smart plan to be tied just to that source. So it says that. Because like we have one from UpNest that will say, hi, my name is Mike Anderson and I'm with UpNest and Realtor.com, because that, validates why I'm reaching out to them, because they came in through a source that they, that we paid for, that they want to make sure that they're not getting some random agent trying to reach out to them, right? So we're going to have those sessions. We're thinking about doing them Tuesdays and Thursdays, or Tuesdays or Thursdays, something like that. We'll decide for sure and then let you know. But so I guess what I'm trying to say with this kind of opening of this last session is that this isn't the end. This is hopefully just the beginning for you. One thing that you haven't gotten is all of the smart plans, the templates, all the things that we've been talking about aren't on your system yet. Some of them are, but not all of them. Like the maintenance plan that you're giving to all your homeowners and stuff we're going to be talking about today. So our goal is just to send that out to all of you, so it's on your site, so you have it on your front and back end of your CRM. Now, in order for us to do that with this test group, because you guys have been a part of the progression of all this, is not to just send it out and hope that everything works for you, especially what you may have already done on your site. So we're going to have to take the time to contact each of you individually, and we'll first do that, and I'll be a part of that. Eric will be a part of that, and Braden, maybe even Jeff too, but we'll be contacting you to kind of get a good pulse on how it's worked for you. Do you feel like it's given you what you wanted and where the gaps are and things like that? And then we're going to talk about the migration of all of our updates to your site. If you're ready for it, if you want it all, if you've already done a lot. There's some of you that have been so busy, you've done maybe even more than we have. You want some of the things that we've created, and we'll have to figure out a way how to get that to you. Like smart plans are kind of easy, because when a smart plan gets thrown over to your site, you can just pull it from that and then add it and edit it and stuff like that. So those are the kind of sessions that Eric and Braden will probably have with you during those Tuesdays and Thursdays to really discuss, okay, how do I implement these things once I've got them on my site, right? That sound about right, Eric? Am I getting that right? Okay, good. Yeah, it's a template. So, but I mean, as far as you guys being the ones taking care of that. So does that hopefully make sense to everybody? Is that right now we've been doing a lot of discussion, and today we are too, about how this site and CRM and everything should be working for you. And that's not even talking about the coaching piece of it. I know many of you have not yet gone onto the CaptivateAgent.com site, logged into that, because you have two logins. You have your CRM login, which is crm.captivateagent.com. And then you just have CaptivateAgent.com, where if you log into that, you have all the courses that are available to you, the Ultimate Homebuyer course and the $20,000 listing presentation course. And there's some missing still. The reason that they're not all up there, because my goal by now is to have those all done. was that the integration between what I coach and what the system does and how that works together is a big part of what that coaching should be. So I'm still creating those because we've been developing all of our templates and smart plans and all the other things that we want to do. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So today what I want to go over with you is this is the game plan. We're going to be calling them game plans now. I kind of like that idea, maybe because March Madness. And can you believe the Final Four is all #1 teams? I bet a lot of people on their brackets have gotten that because, a lot of people just pick the best teams all the way through. This is the first time in how long? Not that you want to talk about that. Second time in history. Really? Is that what it is? Second in history that the Final Four to be all #1, C teams. So that's cool.
I thought I picked the Texas Tech or Florida right.
Yeah. Sorry, that's not what you guys came here to talk about. Sorry, but I like this idea. We have a game plan. We're trying to help people win. We actually are some of our smart plans. I have that kind of language in them now, and obviously you'll be able to change those out. But we're excited to get those out to you. I wrote a whole bunch over the weekend that have to do with what I'm going to talk to you today about, which is the pathway to qualification and the home equity assessment programs. So today, what we're going to do is I want to go over first the definitions of the pipeline steps, the lead types and segments, how those all work together. Robert, he's not in here right now. He even asked me last week. He's like, I still don't quite understand. When do I use view? What does segment mean? What is in your contact database, right? Some of you may have a good handle on that, and if you do, please pipe in. Please kind of share your thoughts about it. The reason these are important is not only in terms of the organization of the people in your database, but it's also the things that are going to trigger the smart plans and the automations that we've put together. So if we change those things, or if everybody has something different, we can't support you that well. Now, that doesn't mean you can't change everything but the pipeline steps, unfortunately. We'll talk about that in just a second, but that's what we're going to go through. And then after that, so we'll spend hopefully about only half an hour on that part of it. And then we're going to discuss the pathway to qualification and the home equity assessment programs, which are a big part, in my mind, one of the most important ways of generating business while people are still in the mode of thinking about buying and selling property. It's really important to them, but they haven't basically pulled the trigger to say, I'm ready to buy or sell right now. They're not out there like looking for an agent to get them into a house or looking for a loan officer to get them approved for a loan, but they really would like that. They just don't, they have information that isn't quite there yet for them. And if you reach out, it's one of the easiest conversations you'll ever have if you do it right. And we'll talk about what that means, because I know Braden, he got really excited about it and even made a lot of appointments. And he's like, I can't get anybody to go talk to my lender. And so it's really about the approach and helping see it from their perspective to get them to want to work with you as a consultant before they work with you as a agent that opens doors. Okay, so we're going to go through that as well today. And then I can't wait to go through the equity assessment. We'll go over it in detail here, but I'm going to create a whole course on it. I know a lot of you have been waiting for this. It does merit its own course. I know in the book, it's only like a page and that's it in there. But the equity assessment is amazing. Like just this weekend, I was talking with a neighborhood friend. They decided to sell their home, so I'm going to list their house for them. But the wife was, she's like, they're talking a little bit about what they should do with the money. They know that I invest because I send out so much information and we talk about investing, that they're like, yeah, we want to sell this house and we're not going to buy because they're going to be living temporarily in Vegas and then they're going to want to come back. They're talking about buying another house. And at first she was saying, well, we'll just take the money that we're going to make from this house and just buy something with cash or hold on to it for a little while and then buy something with cash. And she goes, but you guys invest, right? And I'm like, yeah, she's talking about my wife and I, because we're all friends. And like, yeah. And so by the end of the conversation, long story short, is they're like, okay, we're going to sell our house and buy 3. That's their goal now. And the idea of investing money into real estate, into real property and what it means to be a landlord and all those type of things. I'm telling you, there are so many homeowners out there sitting on $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 in equity, and they have no clue what to do with it. No idea whatsoever. And the ability for you as a real estate agent that understands investing in real estate. Doesn't mean that people should only invest in real estate. I'm not saying that, stocks and 401ks and, other investments are good, diversified, great. But even it wasn't Dave Ramsey. I can't remember which one it was. Kind of broke up one of the big players out there that talks about finance. Basically, they had a pie. I should draw it out here. I'm going to do it because you guys can see me. Yeah. So
Love your artwork.
and you love my artwork. Yeah. I started my degree in art. Can you believe that? Now I suck at it. Because I get so busy trying to do things so quickly. But he drew a pie like this, and he's down the middle. He said, this should be real estate. If you want to be a really good investor, when you decide how much money you're going to allocate towards your investment or towards savings and retirement and stuff like that, as you're planning for retirement, 50% should be in real estate. And then he divided this too, and he said, then you've got your standard stock, and then basically what the opposite of that is going to be your commodities, which are going to be, when you talk about stock, you're talking about blue chip, and I won't get into all that kind of stuff, but just kind of your regular standard kind of company stocks and stuff like that you invest in. Whereas this up here is going to be like your gold and silver and investments in things like oil and gas and electric, that kind of stuff. That's basically what he said. This and I thought what I love about this kind of layout or this kind of way of looking at it is that when any one of these, because they work separately from each other a lot of times. Like, for example, when the stock market goes up, your commodities will come down. You kind of know how that works and stuff. Maybe you've heard about that. So basically what he would explain is when any one of these would have a run, like when when real estate had this run back in, 2000 and, 1920, before the rate, when the rates were really low, and you had that huge run where you had like 20% gains and stuff. How many got 20% gains year over year for a few years on your property? So he said once you get those gains, as soon as you get a good gain, you sell, and then you buy in the one that's kind of going to do what the opposite would be, like same with stock. Anyway, I always thought that was kind of cool to think of it this way. So this is what we've tried to do is we have a little bit more than 50% on the real estate side. We don't have as many on the commodities and then some stock and stuff like that. But when you start talking to people about finances and you're a real estate agent and basically half of what they should be investing in is real estate, how important are you? I mean, literally, if you think about that, you are one of the most important people in their lives. If you talk not about what house do you want to buy next only, but when you talk about how am I going to retire, how should I invest, what does it mean to build and grow wealth, things like that. That's what real estate is all about. That's why I love it. What was that? Don't buy oil. Okay, don't buy oil. Buy electric, whatever you want to do. But basically, I call it commodities, right? So commodity, however you want to define that.
Yeah, we made that mistake. It's not as good a deal as they make.
Yeah, but there is time when the stock market goes down, then commodities usually go up. So yes, did you have a question? Oh, I thought something. Okay, so let's go back now and let's talk about segments and everything. So I'm going to pull up. I got to share my screen. I'm going to remember to do that, but luckily I have Braden who reminds me when I don't. Well, I'm lucky to have Braden for a lot of reasons, because I think I would like walk into walls and never get anything done if I didn't have Braden. Okay, so I'm sorry, you're gonna have to blur some of these things out. I know. So in your contact database, so basically the nomenclature, the vernacular, whatever, however you want to say it, we're talking the same language, right? About what these things are. So you've got your people up here at the very top, your transactions. So this is, of course, when someone goes under contract. I know in Lofty, it also starts when you start to meet with them. We're actually kind of drawing that line, and we'll send information about what that means. And we'll talk about it too within the sessions that Eric and Braden are doing. But we're kind of drawing the line of before they sign an agreement with you for you to be their agent. That's basically going to be things that fall with under people and the smart plans and things that we create. Once they sign a contract with you, and then they start shopping for a house, and then they go under contract with a buyer or seller, that's when it goes under the transactions piece of this. Okay. And we'll have continued, that's what you're paying for. You're not just paying for a system. I hope you all know that. You're paying for us to continue to teach and guide and collaborate with you throughout all your time as a real estate agent to make sure that you continue to build and grow your business. That's what we hope you believe in. I don't want you to feel like you paid this monthly fee and you got a license, even though we're charging you the same amount if you just went to Lofty and got the license. Our goal is to make sure that you're working smarter, better, and in a way that generates more business, hopefully, if you feel that way. I don't want to be presumptuous or pompous about that, but I just want to make sure that you understand that's what you're paying for. So calendar, if you've got your calendar integrated, obviously that's going to show everything that you have in one place, which is really nice. You can see my calendar is pretty darn full here. It also shows all your your social media posts. It really helps you to understand at one glance. Here's everything that's going on right now. But what it also does when you actually have like these that are in these certain colors, you're busy during that time. So people can actually go online and, register to see a house or want a showing and stuff like that. And that will, register there. Listings, of course, your listings, et cetera, et cetera. Don't want to go through all that too much, but I just want you to know that's what that top level is there. That's kind of your main functionality of your CRM. Then down below, you have these leads. These are called views. And I know Robert works the views a lot. Views are basically just a way for you to be able to see any one of your contacts in terms of any sort of filtering, right? And it almost sounds like, well, what's a segment then, right? So I don't want you to be confused. You can use a view and basically create views even and have certain views out there that are specific to what you want. We have a demo leads here that I'm supposed to be using. Maybe I should do that one. Sorry. That's the one we're allowed to, because these are made up, right? Yeah, sorry. So I should have that. Yeah. So these are our demo leads. You have these partial leads that aren't, I think some of these are defaults. We're going to look at maybe, we're not too concerned about these defaults. Homeowners, we were wondering why that just kind of stood there like by itself in a view, but nonetheless, we'll kind of figure that out. But you have the ability to do any views you want. So this is fully functional under your ability to create views. And when you create a view, you can determine the view based on all sorts of different criteria. So I'm not going to get into that right now, but I just want you to know you can do that. The only thing that a view limits you to, aside from having a quick link to, just see all those people under that view, which is really nice to do, is that you can't trigger a smart plan from the view. So that's what we use pipelines and segments and tags and things like that for. Okay. I hope that kind of makes sense to you. But again, we'll continue to work with you as you learn. Please believe in yourself and believe in us to be able to teach you what you need and that you don't have to know it all right now. I know if you're like me, I feel like every day I'm discovering something different or new about the system, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a good thing. It's when we stop discovering that we realize that we're limited. So please believe that this is all there for your benefit to keep growing, but we'll give you all the basics that you need. Yes.
Can I just make a suggestion to let you guys know how, since you said.
Yes, please. I want you to. Yes.
So what we have our setup for is any new person who ever comes into the system, doesn't matter how they get into the system, it goes into a needs attention view. And then we also have assignments for each of us since we use the same CRM.
Mm-hmm.
For her needs attention, my needs attention, if there's not one person assigned, it goes to both of us. If she assigns it to her, it automatically removes it from mine. So that means, like I said, any Lofty lead, any website registration, we want to make sure that no matter who comes in, they're at least acknowledged and paid attention to once, so that we can then figure out if we're going to call them, talk to them, put notes on them, and separate them out. And make sure no one who comes in gets lost in the mix.
I love that. And I hope I don't do this in a way that any of you would feel like you wouldn't want to be a part of this, especially as this focus group. I would love for you to host one of our webinars that we're doing, the live ones, where you just talk about views and how you use it. Because one thing that we're doing with the pipeline steps and other things that I'm going to be showing you doesn't have that component of showing everything that comes in one place so that you can deal with that like you have. I think that's awesome. I hadn't even thought of it that way. So if you don't mind, Robert, I'd love to have you, and anybody that wants to be a part of that, say, oh, please. Because basically what we want to do with Captivate CRM is we want to create coaches out of all of you. You can build teams out of it. You can, do all sorts of things that could help benefit you both in your business as well as financially, because you could build teams off of it and stuff like that. But we'd like you to feel comfortable that we create a community. We want to create this community of Captivate agents that share and collaborate and things like that. So please, if you wouldn't mind, then that'd be great. I love that. So I wanted to explain that View is a very powerful way of having a very quick and easy access to a group of people. And by the way, if you have any group, like if I click on my demo leads, like I did on this View, I can still select all 8 leads here, for example. So you can do all the new ones, and I can still go in here and send a mass text or a mass email. I can, send it to a dialer if you want. We do have a dialer opportunity there. If you want to call them and you want to have the dialer be a part of that. It has the ability to send postcards and letters through the system. You can even integrate it with Microsoft Word, which is kind of nice in terms of these letters. You can send a closely link to them. So there's lots of options. It says more here, all sorts of things that you can do. You can change pipeline, change segments, and change tags within that group. Within that View, I should say. So that is a way then to trigger a smart plan. So there is a way to do that when you use those views. So the views are very powerful. Unfortunately, I have not looked into them near as much as Robert has. So I'd love for you to share and teach us if you don't mind. Everybody agreed that would be a good idea to do that? No, it's never done. Seriously, it's never done.
How do I search for a specific person in this View? Like where do I type in a name?
Oh,
Search for a person.
the best way to do that is just this search button right here.
Oh,
and you can search for anybody you want, and it'll start to pull it up. Like if I put in, John, and I could put in the whole name, there he is right there. And it'll actually search not even just within this group here, it'll search all of your database.
That is one of the problems, is you can't isolate the search to the View.
That is true. Yeah.
It searches the whole.
It searches the whole thing.
People with the same 2 or 3 clients with the same name. It will show up all of them, even if one of them is the only one you're looking for in a View.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's things like this that we're going to go push back on Lofty and say, hey, this is a nice thing that we'd like to have. They allow us to send them recommendations. And the more we get momentum of what we're doing, the more clout we'll have, to be able to get them.
Speaking on that, this is one of the really cool things with Lofty. In your little thing where it has your image for your account, you can actually send suggestions to Lofty.
Yeah, you can. Yes, you can.
None of the other CRMs that I've seen actually let you do that. You can put in suggestions.
And they do tally those. They collect all of those
Yeah.
agents, and that actually gives them
They actually decide.
the motivation.
The priority is based on how many people. So when we have a big enough community, we can say, okay, everybody send sign this petition. Yes. If Mike doesn't want to, don't say that. I mean, what are you
saying? If Mike doesn't want it, you can still request and say, hey, Mike's wrong. We need this.
Don't you remember in the 80s, Mikey likes it? Mikey, I'll do whatever you want. Yeah. So, okay. So this is where you'd search. It even searches by notes, which is nice. If you have notes and stuff that are in there, you can search by that. Of course, that could be pretty crazy, but anyway, there you go. So the views are really good. So I just wanted you to see what that view meant. And again, what you can do with that view. Now let's go back. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Sorry. To all my leads. Okay, here we go. So now where it says all leads right here, new leads, attempt contact, reschedule appointment follow-up, non-responsive. This is the pipeline. Right now, the pipeline has, in my opinion, way too much in there. And in my opinion, and this again, I say that this way because I want you to give me feedback with this. I sent you that big long email that I know none of you read because it was too long. I get it. I wouldn't have read it that long myself, but oh, thank you. But the idea of a pipeline in my mind, and I'm going to draw this up on the board. So let me go back to not sharing, just so you can see what I'm talking about. Is the way that we've kind of laid this out in Captivate. Is you all know that we have the 6 stages of the life cycle, right? Now, this is a high level view, so it's not getting into every detail like the pipeline, but basically we know through the research that we did that, people are home shopping for about a year. So there's lots of things that are going on during this time, but that's a major stage during the process. Earlier in the process, they're online looking. It's a great time to capture people during this time instead of waiting till the end. The last 3 to 5 months is when they actually are looking at or talking to real estate agents. But it becomes a lot harder to compete at this level because they've already kind of did all the things that you could help consult them with to get them to that point. And then you have to fight over all the agents. And at this point, if they didn't feel like they really got anybody's help in getting them there, they're really looking for a door opener, for a signpost, or, that kind of thing. So it's harder to compete, especially at a higher commission level. You can still compete. You have your SOI, so they'll still want to use you. But a lot of times we deal with most of our clients basically at this point of that stage, and we don't get enough business that we want. So just so you know, just remember that. Then, of course, they go under contract. That's a very important part of the process. And then they close. That's such an important piece of that. We have to create its own stage. Then they want to improve the property. And again, this is high level. So I'm not trying to, define everything to any more detail than this. And then they're building equity. This is where you really get into what we'll talk about later today about what it means to leverage that equity, which is this last stage, towards other property investments, upsizing, downsizing, things like that. And this is really important stuff that is part of the coaching. So don't forget to go through the coaching courses to understand this a little bit better. The pipeline is basically cutting through all of this. So basically, these are these steps that people go through as they walk through these, wherever they're at in that life cycle, that homeowner life cycle, and your ability to help them through the pipeline. Does that make sense? So instead of the pipeline being linear, like most, sales coaches and stuff like that, even in our industry, especially in our industry, teach about, it's all about getting leads, hustling those leads, and then you get them under agreement, and then you get them under contract, and then you close, right? And then it's rinse and repeat. And during this time, it's not a true loop because we're just sending newsletters and, doing client appreciation events. We're just doing top of mind marketing to say, hey, don't forget me until you're ready to be a lead again. And leads are basically looking for door openers and signposters. Does that make sense? What we're talking about there? Because this is just a really quick overview of what, I better move this a little bit. You can see that piece of it. This is just a really quick understanding of what Captivate's all about. Yeah, the camera goes back. Thank you very much. Yeah, doesn't always work that way. Okay. So the pipeline is really supposed to be following the normal course of the steps through this life cycle. Now, if someone doesn't qualify, if someone decides to wait longer before they buy, if someone goes under contract and it falls out of contract, all these things, these are called contingencies. People fall out all along this pipeline for different reasons. Maybe they even want to consider working with another agent and you lose business. Maybe they move out of area, whatever that may be. You can still benefit if you manage your business correctly in terms of if they move out of the area, what do? What's the best thing to do as a real estate agent to still benefit from that? Referrals, right? How many of you are staying in touch with people that moved out of the area and think of them as still your client because they could still use your advice when they're not getting that from most other agents out there, and you can get referral business. I have some agents that I've coached before that 60 to 70% of their business, their income, and they make good income, actually comes from referrals, even to the point they're like, I kind of like referrals better because I don't have to do any of the work. Like literally they get to do all the consulting, but they don't have to do all the other grunge work, right? So there's a lot of opportunity. What I'm saying about these here is we're going to use tags to basically define when they kind of drop out of your life cycle. And the purpose of the tag is to get them to come back into that life cycle. Now, in the example of them moving away, basically it's, they could still be a part of this, of course, but you just have a referral partner that's doing it. So I guess it still works just fine that way. But does that make sense? So the difference between your pipeline and your tags, those are the two things that we're going to go over to make sure we have those defined all right, is that this is your normal course going through the life cycle. getting them through all that. And this is the contingency, right? Now, the reason we want to define these is because we want to create automation through AI and smart plans, which are reminders to you and information to the client, to the customer, about what it means to take the next step. And the goal of this is for them to take that next step, right? Does that make sense to everybody what we're doing here? That's why we have pipeline. That's why we have tags. So we want to get away from pipeline steps that are really just, to me, more frivolous. We can create views. I think Robert can help us with that. When you have, like, if you want to do hot, warm, and cold, I know the pipeline shows hot, warm, and cold. All pipelines do. And they show other things that are a little bit less like, some of these contingencies, like they're not responsive, right? So you have a non-responsive pipeline, step. To me, that's not a pipeline step. That's a contingency. They're not responding. You got to bring them back in. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. And then the last definition that I want to go through and then we're going to go through all those actual, the names, the titles of all that, is the segments. How many of you feel like you understand what segments are? Kind of, more or less. I know that's what everybody's off. So I'm going to go back to sharing. I'm going to explain what the segment piece of it is. And then that way we're all kind of talking the same language. And then we're going to decide together if what we came up with you feel good about, because we want to send this all to your systems, to your CRM, if you're all right with that. And that's why we're going to contact you individually when we do that, because we don't want to override anything you want. If you've been doing this for 30 years and for 20 years, and the way you like your pipeline set up and how everything is, you want to use some of the system, of course, and some of our ideas, great, but you want to do it your own way, we won't override that. Okay, so coming back in here, you have, based on any person, so here's a person right here, you have a pipeline step that's going to show up here, and that's what we want to clear up, which we'll go through. Then you also have these segments, okay? Basically, what a segment is a grouping of people in a way that you would want to reach out to them at any given time. So, for example, a segment of renters and homeowners is really important, of course, but even segments that we'll go through in a second of grouping that you can send out an email to all of them. So let's say, for example, you have a lender that says, like Deneen says, we've got a really great new first-time buyer program right now, right? And you want to send that out to all the first-time buyers at once. You have a renter segment, right? So we have to come up with the right name. Should we call it first-time buyer or renter? We shouldn't have both there because it's basically the same thing, right? So we'll have to decide what it is. We put it in as a renter, right? And then that renter, if you want to pull them all up at once through a segment and send them all Deneen's email, right, or the information that she provided to everybody in your database that's a renter, that's what a segment is for. Does that make sense? Now, we're going to create a standard group of people or segments that we want you to, I think, consider. Then you can always add your own. You could have a segment that's your pickleball team that you work with, or like Jeff's a baseball pitcher and he knows all the family, or a pitching coach, sorry. He knows all the families involved with them. So maybe he has his own little segment of that group. Does that make sense? It's just basically a grouping. But I know that sounds like, well, wait, there's a view, there's a segment, what's the difference between the two? View just has a functionality to where you can do like what Robert was talking about, where you can take all my new leads, for example, as a view that comes in, and then even allocate them between that, the two of you. You can't run a smart plan against it, but you can use it as a view, right? So there's a little of overlap there, but hopefully it makes sense that the reason you have one over the other. So I'm going to go through and show you what we've come up with, and this will probably make more sense. I don't know if my definition helped at all, but I hope so. So here's what we have in terms of segments. Segments are homeowners, renters, investors. Those are the top three. That's why they're italicized. You want to be able to reach out to them at any given time. Why would you want to be able to reach out to investors at any given time? Like all of them at once.
We can have a listing that would be perfect for them.
Investors, exactly.
Also,
Wholesale, if you have wholesale. I mean, literally, you could be in your broker sales meeting and someone comes up and says, hey, I got a new listing. It's a great fixer-upper or something like that. Have you ever had something like that kind of come up? Wouldn't it be nice? Just one email that you can do. You can pull up all your investors at one point. I've got a great one. And then, of course, you can even filter that if you want by saying it's only investors that want to look in this particular area, so that you still have the ability within that group to filter it further. Does that make sense? Or that segment. 1031 reps. Now, part of this is for us as, coaches to teach you and help you as you help us, I guess, because many of you are smarter than I am, is to understand how I should be managing my people and who's important. So we have 1031 reps. Why are 1031 reps important? Because they help with the investment side of things, and you can put them in there. I put these in alphabetical order, by the way. So you have builders, community leaders, contractors, CPAs, et cetera, et cetera. I sent you this list. Basically, I don't want to go through them all one by one because we've already gotten to the kind of the time I wanted to spend on this. This to me is our standard segment list that when you add a contact, you can add them to any number of these segments. They can be a member of multiple. If you decide to send, a email, for example, or you do a dialer or any of those type of options that you have in here to multiple groups or segments, they would only get that one email. They wouldn't get it multiple times. Does that make sense? So if someone is a homeowner and they're an investor, and you decide to send out an email to all your homeowners and investors for whatever reason that is, and they're in both lists, they'll only get one email or one text. Got it? Make sense? Okay. So the purpose again of a segment is just to define for you and a group of people that you would want to contact at any given time as a group. And it makes sense to do that. And these are the ones that made the most sense to us of how you should categorize your people in your database. We have flippers, financial advisors, friends, home service providers, home warranty reps, inspectors, et cetera, people that are retired veterans. These are really, knowing who all your veterans are. And as you continue through your career to keep adding people and they go into the right segment, you have more people to leverage for great information that you can send out to them as a group. Okay. Any question about that? Any suggestions at this moment?
Well, there's not that many segments on here, so.
Yeah,
So
this
do we
is,
have them?
no, I don't want you to create them. I think we're going to be able to do this, right? We can send this all out as an update, right? With segments. Yeah. Our goal is, because remember, we're at the point now where we've finalized all these really great things that they're not on your site yet. You've got some of those things, but the smart plans, like that home maintenance program that we have that has all those home maintenance landing pages and that reminds them with all the videos of what they should do. None of that's on your site, is it? Okay. So we want to put those onto your site. So these are going to be propagated over to your site. As far as segments go, these are going to be the standard ones that show up, and we want to put them in alphabetical order so it's not so hard to find, who they belong or which one to select. But you can add more segments, so don't feel like you can't. Like you have your church group or you have your yoga group, and you do a lot of business with them. We have someone that's owned a restaurant, and he has all these people that loved him, and then he wants to be able to target them. We had someone else that's a hairdresser and wants to be able to go back to all of the people that they, were clients of hers, right? To do that, you can create those kind of segments. Okay. Any questions about that part of it? Yeah. Sam, I'm sure you can think of, all your friends. Sam collects old cars and fixes them up. You've been in the military. I mean, there's other kind of groupings that you may want to have that are very specific to you. Okay. Okay, I'm going to move on then. So then we have our lead types. A lead type is basically when a lead comes in, it gets assigned a type or you add it to this. Again, they can be a member of multiple ones. We have buyers, sellers, investors, homeowners, renters, landlord. Now they have agent in there, and we've been questioning agent. We decided, or I think it's a good thing to leave in there, because you may be at the point where you're trying to, as a lead, that is, this is a lead source. Like you're going to have agents over here, obviously. Oh, do we not have agents in here? I don't have agents. Ooh, that's a bad one. Why do we want to have agents in segments as part of your database?
So we can send out listings.
Exactly. Whenever you have a listing, you should send it to all the agents especially in that particular area. Sorry. Over here, we have agent as a lead type. When would it be a lead type for you? A referral could be. Yep. Very good. I didn't even think about that. I was thinking more if you want to recruit and you're a broker. if you're a team and you want to recruit a team, and do that. So I could see that would be something that you'd want to do. And then of course you have referral here as someone that is a lead type, that is a referral. And of course they might be a seller and a referral. They might be a buyer and a seller and a homeowner. So it's all right that they're members of multiple ones, but this is where engagement happens. And we are trying to create the best that we can, and you can help us do this so that they don't get bombarded with too much information, but they get relevant information. Remember, the best marketing you can do in sales is getting the right message to the right person at the right time. So by specifying what kind of lead type means the AI is smart enough to know this is a buyer, so I'm not going to annoy them with seller stuff, or this is an investor, so I'm going to start to talk about things about, what an investor thinks about cap rates or things like that. Make sense? Okay. Now, any questions or suggestions about lead types? This they can't add to, is that right, Braden? I don't think they can add lead types.
Right.
Okay, so we did put other in there because of that, and so did Lofty do that. This unfortunately would not give you the ability to add whatever you think you'd like. So please give us feedback. We're counting on you in this focus group to tell us we can add them, but we don't want this list to be too long, because this is a very critical way of the system being able to know how to communicate and position these leads within your database with smart plans and that kind of stuff. Okay.
I'm just curious, would your lender fit in that?
I don't think a lender would be a lead type. A lender's a good segment. So we have our lenders in the segments, and we even specify by different kinds of lenders. Like you could do short-term, lending, like hard money lending, as well as the long-term kind of stuff and things like that.
It's less a vendor. This is someone you're trying to transact business with.
Yeah, this is a lead.
This is your client.
This is a client lead. Yeah, very good. Think of it that way.
Yeah.
These are the kind of people that I would have as a client. Now that's why agent, at first we're like, wait a second, how is an agent a client? But now to us, we thought, well, if you're a team lead, if you're a broker and you want to recruit, that's what you'd use it for. Okay. And if you're online, please pipe in. Don't feel like you can't make any suggestions or speak. Okay, Liz says, could you put tags on people if there wasn't a category? You mean a segment? We're going to call them segments, right? Can you put a tag? Yes, you can assign tags to segments. But mostly you want to do it with pipelines and lead types, but yes, you can do it to segments. Okay. Is that answer your question, Liz? Because maybe I didn't understand why you're asking that.
Yeah, I was just thinking if there wasn't like
Oh,
the
sorry.
category. Oh,
Sorry,
can you hear me?
Liz, our audio is not turned up.
Oh, sorry.
There we go. Now we can hear you.
I was just thinking if you didn't have the category you wanted, you could put a little hashtag to, categorize them.
Yeah, so we don't have, this system doesn't do like the hashtag. Tags themselves are, I don't know, I guess you can put a tag that you can create a tag from anything, but I don't think that would be the purpose of it.
A tag is more because you want the system to do something.
Yeah.
So you're more talking about a segment.
Segment.
That's a good place to
Okay.
Yeah,
categorize any kind
Got
of.
it.
exactly. And Liz, you have the ability to add as many extra segments as you want. So if you have a specialty segment that has to do with, you're part of the Chamber of Commerce in your area, and you want to put all of your Chamber of Commerce people in one, segment so that you can email them, ask them questions or whatever, that would be a segment. That's
Okay,
the group.
got it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay, so now the pipelines. So here's the thing about pipelines. Because pipelines are so critical to the way that the system functions in terms of the communications and the way that they move through the life cycle, as I showed here, these do not have the ability for you to update or change. We send this out from the administrative level to all of those that are working within the Captivate Agent CRM, okay? So this is what we came up with as far as those pipeline steps go. I think since I wrote this, we did a little tweaking, so we'll continue to do that. And we'll meet with you to talk through this. But just overall, and this I want to spend just a tiny bit more time on, you have what we call a buyer opportunity. It was called buyer lead. The reason I want to call it a buyer opportunity is because I want you to be able to capture them as they're building equity and leveraging equity, or as you're doing a pathway to qualification or a home equity assessment, which is kind of going along with that. So I like the idea of an opportunity more than a lead, because a lead to me sounds like, you know, it's just that person that's trying to get into a home or something like that. Doesn't mean that's not what it is. But I also want you to consider that opportunities are a very good way of looking at the way you have your lead management, or the way you manage leads. It's a longer word. What do you guys think of that? Buyer lead over opportunity. Does it matter? Should we just call it buyer lead? Any feedback? Buyer lead is fine. Okay. Do you understand? So for me, the difference between a lead and an opportunity really comes back to this shopping stage is like a whole year long. Opportunities, like at the very beginning of it, the lead is like, oh, I have someone that just came into my database, because we have lots of leads that come in that are just like, hey, I just want to look at this house, right? Whereas an opportunity to me is like, hey, let's talk about your equity, or let's talk about getting you into your first place when you didn't think you could. So I kind of like the opportunity there, because it constitutes all of that. But I can call it lead as long as you know in your head. I don't want to think about, even though that's where the money is, that someone's just trying to open a door, that it's more about you trying to get people engaged with you as they think about getting ready to buy or sell, right? Like the family that I just signed up with a listing, they're not going to list until June, right? When do most people contact you when they want to list a house? The week, yeah, it's a Wednesday and they want the house listed on Friday, right? Or yeah, and then they want the open house Saturday. You know, so that to me is a lead that came in, and I can do that if I want to, I guess. But I want you to really think about it in terms of an opportunity. Mark Robinson likes opportunity. And so does Felicia. So I think for now, is that all right if we keep it as opportunity? But think of it as a lead. Basically, it's an opportunity for that person, and I want you to think about, how am I going to, you know, emphasize or help, you know, take advantage of that opportunity, is what we're talking about there. Okay. So then, of course, once, you know, the buyer opportunity is, you know, in your database and you're nurturing them towards that consultation, you know, is being set. We might even change. We've been talking about the game plan. The buyer game plan is set or something like that. Anybody like that sound to it instead of consultation? I know I did. You know, what happened is I listened to a lot of podcasts, and I was listening. There's another coach, I think he's in Florida, is another real estate coach. And he was talking about how he changed his whole vernacular, his whole way of talking to people. Because usually he was saying that I usually say, you know, buyer, you know, I have a buyer presentation or consultation, and I have a listing appointment, you know, your listing appointment type of thing, or listing presentation. And he goes, it's like everybody says the same thing. It's more of agent speak. And he goes, when I started changing that to saying, okay, we're going to create a game plan so you can win. And what are you trying to win? And I started to write down all the ideas. I like that way. I like the messaging. But anyway, I'm getting off task. Sorry. The buyer consultation is set. Then you have the seller opportunity. Then the listing presentation set. Then your buyer is under agreement. Then, so basically you see how these are steps, right? Now, obviously you have the first two buyer steps here, first two seller steps here. If they're a buyer and a seller, you're basically going to check both of those boxes, right? Or they're not boxes. They're basically going to be in kind of parallel pipeline steps, which you can do, by the way. Then you have buyer under agreement, seller under agreement. What does under agreement means? It means they've signed an agreement with you as an agent. They're not under contract with a property. They're under agreement with you, right? So this is kind of the way we're trying to manage the way that we talk about these things, so that we're all talking the same language. Then the listing is active. The reason we wanted this to be its own pipeline state is sometimes listings are active for multiple months or weeks at least, right? So we want to make sure that we understand who's in there. The purpose of this, by the way, is when they're in a pipeline, you have the ability at any time. I'm going to bring up up here under the pipeline steps. You can click on any one of these and see all the people that are there. You know, now it has attempted contact, it has all these other ones, but you can see like, oh, nurturing cold. Here's all these, you know, that are going to be there. Oh, I have 0 there. Sorry. Because I'm in under demo. Yeah. So I can see, I can see that I have 72 new leads, 68 I like these being views instead of actual pipeline steps. So that's why they're not going to be there. But you can click on any of those pipeline steps and see everybody that's there. That's the purpose of the pipeline step. And anyway, it goes through all the way through until you kind of come around the circle. That's what we're going to start to talk about right now is you have this leveraging equity as a pipeline step. And I'll explain what smart plans and communications go out on your behalf to get them to think about what that means in terms of getting the next one. But
Online, Mark wants, he's asking for clarification on the pipeline. So he goes, Mark, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, I thought before on the pipeline, you could only select one of those opportunities. So now we can actually select multiples.
let me make sure. Eric's shaking his head at me because sometimes
So, yeah, they're in a current stage.
uh-huh.
Right? So it's part of their buyer's journey or their seller's journey.
Yeah.
As you're moving them along.
What if they're a buyer and a seller though?
They have two different paths.
Yeah, so they have two different paths. So they can be a part of the two
So
different.
And then the way it would treat in the system is they would have two transactions.
Uh-huh.
Right? So if they get that far, otherwise they're still technically kind of a lead if they haven't gone into a transaction stage.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons a lot of people use CRMs is so that they can manage their process. So I want to make sure that I got my disclosures out on time and I got all my sort of tasks.
Mm-hmm.
So these are sort of the major buckets that they're in, and all of those fine details you handle through your tasks or your checklists in the system. And you can create your own tasks and your own checklist so that your process is perfect to the way you do it.
But I think Mark is right in the sense that when I come here to select a pipeline for this particular lead, I can only select one at a time.
Right.
Okay. So if, let's say, for example, Mary PC here, right? Let's say that she is both a seller and a buyer. She's going to sell her home and she's going to buy a home. And we're basically in the process of doing things on both sides of that. Now, I know within the transaction, I can have multiple transactions in there, buyer and seller, but that's after they're under contract, right? What happens when they're just a lead? Can I have them because I know within the lead type, I can have her in there as a buyer and a seller and an investor, whatever I want, right? But as far as the pipeline itself, I believe that Mark is right, and I misspoke, that they are only they're only part of one stage or one step within the pipeline.
I don't think on the people side, I think it still lets you sort of have that open selection. I think once you get to transaction, it's much more linear.
Yeah. So Mark, let me get back. That's a very good, thanks for bringing that up because I think you are right. You can only select one pipeline step at a time. Again, here's the benefit of the pipeline itself is that one, it allows you across the top of your CRM to be able to know who's in each step. So you can at any time look and see, oh, here's where everybody's at. During your power hour, I love going through and looking at, here are my people and here's the steps that they're in. But I think you're right, because we were discussing having one that says buyer and seller, under agreement. And we may have to do that.
I think the mechanics of the system is that once you go into a new step, you can start or stop a smart plan. So once they've gone into the new step, you're talking about smart plans. Maybe you don't want to keep those messages going.
It's just that when it's parallel as a buyer and seller. Yeah, Mark, Mark?
I was going to say, when I have a buyer and a seller going at the same time, I like to have something in there so then AI can know how to interact, both buying and selling, because we're doing it at the same time.
Yeah. Now, where AI comes into play is both on the segment side, but also more importantly on the lead type. AI uses mostly this right here. So if I say they're a buyer and a seller, not only do I have different engagements that I can, like for example, under buyer, I'm going to have the ability to do property alerts. And then under seller, I can do a home report and a market report, for example. And then the AI keys off of this lead type. I don't know how much the AI keys off of the pipeline, but I'll check. But mostly the pipeline is for you in terms of organization. to be able to look at all your people at once and to be able to see, because as far as I know, that's really the only big benefit of this is one, that you can actually see who's under each one of those steps. So you don't want to have so many that it becomes useless to you because you're never going to keep scrolling through to find a step to see where people are. So that was one reason we wanted to keep it pretty basic. The other is that we create smart plans based off of the pipeline, but we also do pipelines off of tags and off of the lead type. The benefit of doing smart plans off of the pipeline is because it shows where they are in the life cycle. So for example, let's say we have a pipeline that we've selected that is just closed. That's when I want to send them, or their home improvement, I'm sorry, stage. We want to send them the monthly home maintenance plan, right? So that when they're under that pipeline stage of improving their home, I want to send them my vendor list. Here's if you want to get your basement finished. Don't forget to flush your water heater this month, that kind of stuff. Those are triggered by where they are in the pipeline. So I will have to confirm, Mark, so that's a great question on how we deal with the leads that are both buyers and sellers at the same time. We may, because Braden, I think you were the one that said that, we need to have one that says buyer and seller, you know, as a pipeline step under agreement, for example. So, okay, we're
Thank
talking
you.
about home transition. Any other questions or comments about that? Mark, thank you again for bringing that up. Nope. Okay, hopefully I haven't lost you or anything. So again, the idea of this was to understand where people are so we can trigger the correct smart plan, but also for you to be able to see where people are in terms of where they are in the life cycle, so that when you do your 1 hour power hour, you're talking to people and knowing kind of, oh, this is where this person's at. They've lived in their home now for 3 years, and now they probably have this much equity. You can even look it up using your tools that you have about what kind of equity they may have. And then with that information, you can find out how to help them take that next step towards whatever they want to do, that's what we're going to talk about right now. Okay, so what I need feedback from all of you before we send it out to you, and we will be calling you, is if any of those pipeline steps or segments or the lead types, if you feel like there's something that needs to be different other than what we already came up with the buyer and seller leads, we will call you, like I said, and work with you individually to figure out how that's going to fit into your system before we send it out. Don't worry, we will not send all these out and rewrite everything without you knowing about it first. Just so that you know, you have all placed, like you were asked to, people under, like if I come up here to Mary again, you have people under different segments and different lead types or pipeline steps and different lead types over here. In order for us to be able to send out all these new ones, we're going to have to delete that. And so that's going to pull them out of those segments and pipeline steps and things like that. Make sense? And then we'll have to reassign it. Now, we should be able to do it in a way that if we rename it, if it's very similar, like if you have first-time home buyers versus renters, hopefully we can migrate that out without you having to do anything. But there may be things where your people are going to be taken out of a segment, and then you're going to have to put them back in. We're going to do our best to make it as painless as possible. Okay, got through that part of it.
Mike,
Yeah.
You maybe ask everyone if we could create a tutorial where we kind of take sort of a demo client and take them through sort of the process of the life cycle. I mean, we start with Susan, and here's where she goes in, and here's what we do with her next.
Yeah.
Here's how she goes through the pipeline, and as though it were a real transaction.
Yeah, and it probably would, and I should probably bring this up too. So here's this person that I just got as a listing right now. We're at the point now where I've created this transaction, right? Because I've already met with them. I sent out the agreement. Actually, let me bring someone up that is more further down than even that. Here, let me do this. I apologize, guys, that I'm bringing up real people here, and I know we're going to have to blur out some stuff on the video. But so here on this transaction, If I come in here, now I have the steps within the task list, basically, for the transaction itself. So here are all the main dates of what's happening. And you can see they're already all the way through. They've got the home inspection date set up. These also can be triggered towards tasks. So I have a checklist here, and this checklist basically tells me, you know, I need to prepare the contracts, prepare listing presentation slide deck. I've already done that. Prepare the listing report example. That's actually done. And so it'll give you these different task lists that you can do. This happens during the transaction. Here's the pipeline step while they're under contract. Do you see that here? So it's a listing appointment set and met. Done that. Now it's signed. Now the listing prep stages, listing live, listing under contract, active listing, under contract, and then pending is where it is now, and then closed or canceled once that happens. This is basically an extension of the pipeline when we only have one step that talks about being under contract, right? Obviously, when they're under contract, there's a lot of steps that we need to take care of and a lot of checklists or items that need to be done. So this is where that happens, and that's under your transaction piece of it. Just to be clear. Does that make sense to everyone? Hopefully I didn't lose everybody on this. Now let's get to the exciting stuff to talk about. Pathway to qualification. Yes.
Mike, do you have the Miro chart by chance? So just so you guys can see the journey that we're actually creating. It's not just one step. We actually have a full plan of a buyer and seller's journey, including pipeline, smart plans, the way that the coaching ties into it and everything like that. That's what we're creating. And we're trying to automate
You gotta log into
the whole entire thing.
I am logged. Am I logged into the wrong one again?
Yeah, you gotta go to your email and hit that link.
I
You
was,
have it real quick, and you can just text it.
yeah, we'll send it out to you
Okay.
because I don't have it right off, or you could text me and do it. Okay. Now what I want to do is I'm going to stop presenting just for a minute. I want to talk about the Pathway to Qualification program and the equity assessment program. We're going to have a course that you're going to be able to go through to get into detail how to do this. But I hope that what you'll see with this is how impactful this stage of building equity and leveraging equity is when it comes to getting people engaged with you right now. We've had agents that are making 10 to 12 appointments a week even, when they really go for it, if they do it during their power hour. If you make 1 or 2 appointments a week, I'd be excited for you. Even 1 a week, right? So I don't want you to feel like you have to do a ton, but we did challenges. The most we ever had an agent do in one challenge in 1 week was 17 appointments she made in 1 week. That doesn't mean that she met with them. She just made those appointments, okay? I want you to understand how easy it is to make these appointments, but you have to understand how to talk to people as a consultant, not as an agent just trying to get them into a door or get them under contract. Does that make sense what I'm saying? You've all heard this. I'm going to go through it in just about 20 minutes, hopefully. Say hopefully. So that you feel comfortable with it. And then there will be a course to get you more information. And the reason I want to tell you this is we have smart plans that are set up for this, and they will be given to you so that you could actually go into all your renters and introduce them to the Pathway to Qualification program and send it to them all at once and get them interested in it. Then when you make your hour, and when you do this now based on your power hour of going through and seeing who's the most engaged, if they open up that email, or if you send a text and they respond to it, especially if they start asking questions, they're going to jump up in the last touch and the engagement score, the lead score. And when they do, then you're going to know to talk to them. Does that make sense? So this is your way of generating a whole bunch of leads by helping people get ready to buy and sell property. And please believe me, the more you do it, the more easy it'll be and the more successful you'll be with it. Like I said, I just had a conversation this weekend. Not only do I get the listing, but they want to take the money that they bought that, or they're selling that house for, and they want to buy 3 homes. And they're starting to think about what kind of properties they'd want, where they'd want to rent it out and stuff like that. This is the kind of consultation that people need and that you can offer. Okay, so I really hope that you're paying attention to what I'm saying now, because in my mind, this is one of the biggest benefits of the Captivate coaching program, is that we're teaching you how to generate more business, how to create more clients for life, and how to give more value to those people when it comes to real estate. I still think that top of mind marketing is useful. It helps people know that you're out there and you're ready to help them. Doing those social media posts on the, on Mondays and getting those things out there. Doing listings and advertising obviously is going to get you a ton of business. But when you don't have that much business, you don't want to pay for a bunch of leads, even if you want to knock doors or whatever you want to do to try to get people engaged with you. Only 4% of people at any given time are ready right this moment to say, I want to buy or sell. We did the research. We surveyed over 20,000 people and asked them, certain questions about different things. But one of the things that we're trying to figure out is who's interested right now in buying or selling property. And only about 4% of people at any given time are. So that means you're annoying the 96% of those people if they're not thinking about it in the last stage of this life cycle, or the stage of this shopping in the life cycle of buying or selling property right now. Make sense? Okay. But everybody, how many in this room and how many people online right now are thinking about at some point wanting to buy their next place? I mean, invest, whatever it is. You're not? You're never leaving your home. But what about investing? How are you going to retire? You're an agent. Best way to retire is through properties, right? Being a landlord. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying is people, it's funny. You might think about it. And that's how I love that you said that, because that's how most people react to that. If you just ask people, what are you thinking about in terms of your next purchase and property? The first thing that they're thinking about is what? I like my home. I have a 3% interest rate. So I'm never leaving my home, right? Even if I don't like it, I'm better off building onto my house. Yeah, exactly. That's how most people see it. But I want you to understand that equity is such an incredible driver to building and growing wealth. Even with keeping your home. You know how many people I tell right now, if you have a 2.9% interest rate and you don't ever want to leave it, then don't. But you don't want to live in your house until you die, right? If that's not the house you want to live in. So what should they do with that property? Keep it and rent it and then move to their next home if they want to. There's other possibilities. But what I want to teach people is that property ownership in this wonderful country isn't just about being able to paint the walls the color that you want to paint them, right? It isn't just about not paying a mortgage that might continue to go up. It's about building and growing wealth. How do most people in our country attain the most amount of money for retirement than anything else? And it's not 401k, by the way. Guess what it is? Real estate. Almost everybody that's made it the 30 years, even if they stayed in one property the whole time, which, by the way, you probably know some old people that have, I say old people, but there are some people out there that have to be old enough to do it for 30 years, but right? They've done that. They've disciplined themselves. We're not as disciplined now. Have you noticed that in the last 15 years or so? I think people are starting to move like every 5 years. Maybe it's been a little bit longer than that. And they even say that the average amount of time that people, move and stuff like that is like 5 to 7 years. So there are still people that are doing a lot of moving. So let's talk about how you're going to get people. We're going to talk about that, Graydon. How do you get people that love their rate to want to do something about it? Okay. So this is what I'm going to teach. I hope this right here. Again, this is in addition to what the system's going to help you to do, but this is your way of talking to people about what this means. So I'm going to talk about P2Q first, which is the pathway to qualification. This one's the easy one because every renter, just about, not everyone, but just about every renter wants to buy at some point. They just don't know how to do it now. And basically, please believe me, there's always going to be a reason for them not to. If you think high interest rates is the reason that they're not buying right now and high prices, is it going to change? Is it going to be different? It's not. But guess what does change for them? What changes for renters? Their rent, what they're going to keep paying for rent over time, right? And then they're stuck wherever they are at this point. Most renters are not happy where they are. If you ask renters, most of them don't believe this is where they want to stay. Even if they want to keep on renting, they'd like to have a bigger place or a yard or something. A lot of renters have smaller rental properties and they want something nicer and bigger. Many of them, unfortunately, are saving a lot of money so they can buy their dream home at some point. Did you know that? A lot of renters, that's what's in their head. I'm going to save up $60,000, $100,000, $80,000 so that 5 years from now or 10 years from now I can buy. What's the biggest mistake of that kind of approach? How much faster would they get that $100,000? Like literally, you know how long it takes to get, if you think that the average, let's say the average property for a first-time buyer is only $350K. And that's true. That's what it should be. And you're probably thinking, where do I buy a place for 350? Condos are 350. You go down to Springville, you can get a townhome for 350. You go to Provo and you get a place that's, 80 years old. It's 350. There are places that are 350. How many of you remember the first place you bought? How old was it? How much work did it need? Was it the perfect dream place? Exactly. Are they all right with that? Sometimes in our mind, we think we have to have a dream house. We don't. The first place I bought was one of those, what do they call it? The mushroom tops, the roof comes all the way down. Ugliest design that anybody who ever came up with should be shot for that design. But yeah, it's ugly as can be and split entries and stuff. But we did that. And did we pick some up? Yes. And did we make money? Yes, we did. And we kind of moved up along the way. Does that make sense? What I'm saying? So P2Q is about helping people understand buy versus rent and equity, basically. That's basically all we're really doing. So this is what I want you to do when it comes to, and many of you have been through this, and we're going to have a course. I'm not going to go through all this in detail because I want to get through it quick enough to get into the equity side of things, because I know a lot of you are interested in that part of it. Is all you have to do is really call up a renter and say to that renter, we have a new program. And I like to say it that way. It's not about, I have a new way of selling you, I have a new sales pitch or anything like that. Even though you don't say it, that's what it sounds like. We have a program where we help buyers or renters, sorry. We have a new program that we help renters buy their first place by the time their lease is up or whenever it makes sense to them. As soon as you say that to a person, and that's what we're going to have in when you send out the emails and the smart plans, that's the kind of the communication that goes in there to explain to them that there's no pressure here. Our job through this program is to help renters who would like to buy at some point in the future. The best time to buy, when's the best time for a renter to buy? It's actually not right now.
Yesterday.
It is, or 5 years ago. But actually the best time for them now to buy is when their lease is up. Did you know that? Because what's the biggest strain that a renter has right now if you try to get them to want to buy? I have a lease. They all do. So you have to immediately say when your lease is up or when it makes sense to you. Because if their lease is up in 2 months and they're like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, they get freaked out a little bit, and there's anxiety there. Most people that when we did the research and we asked them about buying their first place, their biggest concern was the logistics and how to do it, right? So that's what you're going to do through the program. So we say to them, we help renters through this program buy their first place by the time their lease is up or when it makes sense to them. Takes all the pressure off of it. What we do is we help you understand where you're at right now and where you need to be in terms of being able to buy, because most people don't know. Most renters don't know. Is that true? It's true to them and it resonates with them. So you say that. Most don't know. And there's basically, you don't have to go into any details. You have to say, oh, that's based on credit, based on DTI, based on down payment, all that. Unless they want a conversation, your job is to get them into an appointment to talk about it. So basically the whole program is based around getting a first-time or a renter ready to buy their first place by the time their lease is up. We just tell you where you're at, where you need to be. Simple as that. Would you like to come in and meet to find out what you need to do? We help first-time or renters put plans together to buy their first place. Now, then what happens, and this is a basic sales message, you always give the most simple and direct message and let them answer immediately. You don't try to sell them on the whole thing. Why is that when it comes to sales? Anyone, you've been through sales coaching before? We create, as salespeople, more doubts and more reasons for them not to do it than we give them an opportunity just to get excited. If you're confident about it, we have a program. You have it's a name. It's called the Pathway to Qualification. It helps renters get their first place by the time their lease is up. It's so awesome. We have so many people wanting to figure out how to do that. And I'd love to help you. When do you want to meet? That's all you have to do. That's how simple and direct that message is. Don't get into long, descriptions of it. Then guess what you do after that? After you say that, what's the next best thing to do? Shut up. Seriously, you just listen. And then guess what they're going to tell you? Whatever their doubt is. And then guess what your job is? Overcome that doubt. Period. No other doubts, no other things that they could possibly be thinking about, just that one thing. That's it. So guess what they say? Oh yeah, I'd like to, but it's just too expensive. And I like to bring it back to them. Well, How is it too expensive? What do you mean? Well, interest rates are really high and all this, they say whatever they have. And in our course, we'll give you objection responses so that you can have scripts to do that. I don't want to go through every one, but there's very easy ways to get through that. Most of you probably know it, but there's very easy ways to get over that type of thing, right? Interest rates are really high. And I say things like, did you know that rent and owning a property is, believe it or not, over a whole year is about it's $900 difference. Did you guys know that across the nation? It's about a $960 difference between the cost of owning and the cost of renting, even right now, believe it or not, for the whole year, $900. You can look it up. I can't remember. I'll show it to you. It will be in our course because it's part of the research that we did. $960 difference on average. People don't realize that it's really close. Why is it really close? Exactly. You're paying someone else's mortgage. Now, there are times when people get lucky and they've been renting from the same person for 15 years and they haven't raised the rent so much. But that doesn't happen very often. There are times where they're living in mom and dad's basement. That's true. But I will tell you that if they've been doing that, both of those are not the most ideal situation for them. They've been thinking for a long time, I want to get out of mom and dad's basement, or I want to get out of this rent, but I can't afford it elsewhere. They think about things like that. So guess what? You have to change the conversation. So basically, when you help someone overcome an objective, you're basically re-asking the question to them so they can explain what they mean is what you should do, because you'll find that they'll even think of themselves like, oh yeah, I guess that's not big a deal. But you can come up with, yeah, it's only a $960 difference on average. Now you flip it, because you have to flip it to an advantage. What's the advantage? Equity. It's always about equity. The only way that you're going to be able to build and grow wealth, and you leverage, which is the coolest thing in the world, like any other investment, how much money do you put away to your 401k every month? How much money do you try to save? And they're like, yeah, they feel guilty about that sometimes. If you leverage what you're paying for rent towards an investment, meaning you're going to have to pay rent anyway, even if it costs you a little bit more, you don't have to think about it as a cost, because that's what's in their head. When I pay for a mortgage, I'm paying more money, which to them is what? An expense. But what we don't get, we're really hard at understanding this, is that everything else we purchase, everything just about, I can't think of really anything except for maybe education, that we spend money on is what? A depreciating liability, right? You've heard that before. When you buy property, what is it? It's an asset, appreciating asset, right? That's the difference between it. And so that's what we're talking about. And even if they follow Dave Ramsey, even if they've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that you still owning your own property is the best thing you can do. You just don't put a swimming pool in it. You don't buy $1 million house when you can't afford it. Yeah, of course, that's obvious. But if you can take what you are normally going to pay towards rent and put that towards ownership, and then take advantage of appreciation gain from that ownership over time, you will be in a position whereas 97% of America, no, 95, I think, percent of America's wealth, the average American's wealth is where? In real estate, in their home. 95, it's like crazy amount of money, because most people don't save very well, but we do own properties. So that's what you're going to do through this. You'll get better and better. I'm really good at it because I talk about it a lot. And you're probably thinking, oh, I want to be able to talk about it like Mike does. We'll teach you how to do that. You just need to do it, and you will get better and better at it. But the things, we'll teach you little tricks. One is, don't over talk it. Don't think of it as a transaction. Please think of it as a consultation. Please believe that you have the ability to get people lined up, even if that first group takes us 6 months to get there. And there's nothing wrong with that. What happens when that first group that you took from that conversation gets to the closing table in 6 months, and you keep doing this? What's going to happen with your pipeline? It's going to be full of people lined up behind it. It may take you 6 months to get to that point where you're really, taking advantage of this and making really good money. But I promise you, it is worth it. If you're trying to work an SOI, one of the best SOIs you can work are renters that want to buy, because there's a huge demand that's not being met. If you think about anything in sales and anything in the business, trying to grow and build that business, you have to find a demand, and you have to find out how it's not being met well enough, the gap of that demand not being met. And I'm telling you right now, Nobody's talking to renters hardly about how to get ready to buy. And you can do that. Does that make sense? Super easy to do. So we'll have a course that talks about it, but I want you to start getting into this mindset of talking about equity. And why do I do buy versus rent? Because that's what they're thinking about. This is about cash flow to them. But with the true buy versus rent, which will teach you about how to put this together, Denise knows how to do it really well because we have a calculator that we use for that. That converts it. We say, yes, cash flow is a piece of it. And it is a small gain that you can make. And it takes sometimes years. It could take 2 to 3 years to be at the point where what you paid in rent to what you're going to have to pay in a mortgage hits that break-even point. But you will know that for sure that point will come. If I have a graph here, it could be, where your rent goes like this, right? And your mortgage is like this. But I promise you, there's a point right there where your cash flow is even at an advantage. And I'm talking, this is like 2 years sometimes. It used to be less, but around 2 to 2, something like that. Could be less or something like that. You go over to the 10 years and it's a huge increase, right? But this is just cash flow. That's just what they're talking about in terms of coming out of their pocket. And then I have to tell people, well, if you would invest money, this is a great investment. And most of what you're investing is being used by your living expense you have to pay anyway. Why throw away $1,500 a month or $2,500 a month when you could invest that? You add a few hundred extra dollars a month or $800 a month to that. That's an investment now, right? Wouldn't anybody feel that way? If I said that you could get an investment and you're already paying $2,500 of that. Now it's going to cost you $3,000. So you have to pay an extra $500 a month for this investment that's going to have a huge return. Wouldn't you say, yeah, I'll pay that extra $500 if I'm going to get that kind of return, right? That's what makes property investment so powerful. Now, this is just cash flow. What's after cash flow? We haven't even talked about appreciation. How much do homes appreciate on average? It's about 4.7% across 62 years, right? That's powerful. Now, you might think, well, I can make more in the stock market. Yes, you could, but are you going to leverage your rent towards that? No. Do you get a bank that gives you even right now, a 6.5% loan to start a business? Could you get that? Probably not, unless you had a whole bunch of assets against it, because that's the only way they're going to do it. You have a property that's going to give you a very low interest rate loan, which, by the way, 6.5% is extremely low when you think about the advantage that you get from it. If you put 0 to 5% down as a first-time buyer, how much money is coming out of your pocket? 0 to 5%. That's your actual cost of investment, right? So if your property is worth $355% or $350,000 and you only put 5% down, how much money came out of your pocket? Like 20 grand. You only paid 20 grand. Now, if this property appreciates at 5% per year on average, every single year, it's going to gain how much? About 20 grand. But it's year after year after year. For you putting down 20 grand in the first year, if you make $20,000 in the first year and you spent $20,000 to get it, and you have to live there anyway, so that expense every month to have the mortgage is basically what you're going to pay anyway. What's the rate of return of $20,000 on $20,000? 100% return. How many of you would like a 100% return on your investment? When you talk every year, exactly. When you talk to people about this, buying your first place in this way, it's like, why did I wait? Why am I not buying a place? I love this conversation. It's about, okay, we got to figure out how to do it. That's what it comes down to. That's where the plan comes into place. Okay, now I got to figure out how to get my credit up high enough, how to make enough income to qualify, right? It's the debt to income. I have people that I've talked to, they literally sold cars. I had one couple that they decided to sell one of their cars. No, they actually sold both their cars because they had newer cars. You know how people do that? So crazy. I can't afford to buy a house, but I've got two $60,000 cars that I bought that I'm paying $500-600 a month on. And they're like, it's not going to get you anywhere. They sold both of their cars, bought one kind of beater car because one of them actually ended up working from home, and they worked their way to figure out how to do it because they once they got this in place, they couldn't get there fast enough for them to be happy about it. They got excited about not having the nicest car because they saw that this was going to give them so much more value in terms of what they thought was important. That makes sense? That's what you can do as a real estate agent to get people excited, not about getting into a door, about opening financial doors to making their future more exciting and more thrilling. And then like the last person we helped buy a property that was a first-time buyer, the guy is so excited. He's in a 4-bedroom place. He's a single guy. He's been renting all these years. He makes $110,000 a year, and he's been renting. He now bought a place. It's a really nice place. He fixed it up too. He's got 3 renters in there. Guess how much he's paying every single month to live in that place? $360 to live in that place. That includes what he's paying for the HOA, which is 140 of that, because he was able to rent the rooms out for so much money. Right? Now, it doesn't always happen that well, but what I'm trying to say is that, what was that?
Oh, we've got a gentleman we're trying to do this with, but then there's our poor guy. He makes 60,000 a year.
Yeah, and it's tougher. But the thing is, he can buy a condo. There's still condos out there. We have to get them past the idea that they have to buy their dream home as their first property. And because what we tell them in that sense, if that's the objection, is yeah, buy a condo now. Guess what? When we give you this graph and this chart, in 5 years, take that equity and buy a townhome. Then the next time, buy a house, a starter house. Then the next time, buy, they can have a plan now. You be their plan. Guess what happens every time they have to buy and sell? You're their guy or gal. So that's what you're trying to help people to do with the pathway to qualification. If you can get excited about what I'm talking about here, like literally excited, this is what's going to build and grow business opportunity as they get excited, and it gives you something more to offer. Don't you? How many of you would like to be able to do more than open doors and, do more than just kind of the basic thing that every other agent does and have to argue with people about your commission and your value? This is value, folks. And then you'll get paid for it as you go through it. Okay. Any questions about the pathway to qualification or anything else you'd like to add to it right now? We're all comfortable with that? Okay. And again, I'll have a video course set up so that it explains, or even Eric, I know Eric loves this, pathway to qualification. He'll get involved with it. I want all of you to share your experiences. Well, let's create a Captivate community where we're helping people throughout this country get excited about buying property, their first property, house hacking, investing, all that other stuff that can go along with that. Let's get them all to be a part of Captivate and in that sense, and then maybe a part of the Bigger Pockets is really cool too. The last thing I wanted to say about the pathway to qualification one is that there was one agent that came up with an idea that I thought was great, and I had thought about it too, but I hadn't done it, was to go to a property manager and get the property manager to agree to promote the program through a referral thing. So basically the property manager is licensed as an agent, but they're not doing the day-to-day agent stuff. So they actually got the property manager who manages all these properties to basically give them their database of all their renters, and then even support and help them. They even have classes that they do where they do first-time buyer classes for the renters there, because the property manager realizes that people at some point are going to buy. And if he actually helps his renters buy, because a lot of people say, well, is that a good idea? Why is it a good idea for a property manager to help their renters buy? Because he gets more renters to come in, right? That's actually a good thing because they get paid for even the transitions, when they have new people come in, there's more fees that go along with that. And he's going to get a referral fee, which is 20% is what they worked out, or 25, I can't remember. Every single time that agent, helped them buy their first place, that property manager made 20% off of that transaction as a referral fee. Plus they had to get a new person in to rent that place, which they had the extra fees that go with that. It was a win-win situation is what I'm saying. Okay. You guys excited about this stuff? Excites me. I don't know why. It just excites me. This is what it should be about. Now, the home equity. I know a lot of you want to know more about this, and I'm not going to be able to go through it to all the detail because I know the way I talk about it is something that just over years of dealing with this is where I started. I bought properties, flipped the properties, finally figured out that I needed to rent them and all that kind of stuff. But it's always based on home equity. Anyone can do it. please, no, you can do it too. Mostly, usually you can. But home equity is basically the leverage that is used to buy properties. I've had people ask me all the time. I've had at one given time, I think the most properties I had were 12 rental properties at the same time. So nothing big deal. I have a friend that has over 900 doors. Freaking 900 doors. Yeah. The guy brings in, with 900 doors, he brings in almost $1 million a month in rent. Just not, man, it's just crazy. Now, that's not all profit, obviously. He has mortgages. How does he afford that? The guy isn't like a silver spoon baby that just inherited a whole bunch of money. How does he possibly do that? Because you're leveraging, when you have home equity, you leverage living expenses and bank loans, right, towards your investment. There's no other way you can do that. It is the easiest way to build and grow wealth in this country. And again, if my pie is split up where 50% of my portfolio is made up of real estate, this is how it's done. But you don't have to make a ton of money to do that. You just have to be able to know how to leverage that. So I'm going to go through just a few quick ideas with this of how you do it. Then you'll get the class, okay, that you can go online for and go through. You've been maybe through the class already, but basically what I do when I talk to people is that have a home is I send them a home report first. That's the engagement I get. And that's what the CRM is going to do a good job with. I send in that home report every single month. During my, during the 1 hour power hour, what you look at is you can see people that have lots of equity, or you can even look at it for how long, if you put their home anniversary in there, how long they've owned that property. They've owned their property for more than 3 to 5 years. They likely have a good amount of equity in their property. How many of you have had a house for 3 to 5 years and have a good amount of equity? Right? Okay. What are you doing with that equity? And that's what I love to ask people. What are you doing with it? Everybody tells me, well, what do you mean? I don't want to sell. Right? Like, okay, how much is that equity earning you? Nothing. Did you know that you can get that equity working for you, that money working for you? And let me show you how. That's what the home equity assessment is. This is what I tell people. If you have equity in your property, and I know it because I can see it, that's the cool thing about your home report. You can look at their home equity. You can pull up their home report. Everyone know how to do that in the CRM? You want me to show you? You know how to do that? If you sent them a home report, it'll show that you sent it and it's hyperlinked. You click on it, it pops up and it lets you know about what their house is worth right on that report. And then at least in HomeBot, and we're trying to get this one to do it, but it's public record, so it's not hard to get. And I'll put it in the course, but you can find out about what equity they have in that property. Okay. So if I see that they have 200,000 in equity or 250,000 in equity, the first conversation I have with them when I give them a call is, hey, I've been sending you that home report. I'm glad you're getting it. It shows here that you've got about $260,000 in equity. Okay. I say that directly to them. I don't beat around the bush with that. It shows that you have $200,000 or $260,000 in equity. What are you planning on doing with that? I love that kind of direct and powerful question. And usually I get silence. That's usually what I get, is just silence, right? How much equity do you have in your house? Can I ask you?
Probably between 400,000 and 500,000.
$500,000. What are you doing with it? Nothing. Why not? There's some people here that can help you with that. What should you be doing with that? And
to buy other properties.
you should, yeah. But what's the biggest doubt that comes to mind when I say that to you?
Just what?
No, not you.
Oh,
No.
I was being a smart ass about something.
He's always that way.
I wanted to hear your smart
I said investing in OnlyFans.
Oh,
Oh, nice.
that didn't go first to my mind. But,
It did to his.
I don't know. I don't know. I guess just the risk of it kind of is.
Risk, yeah, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
What kind of risk are you? I mean, where do you see the risk?
I don't know. I'm not really sure if I want to be a landlord. Is a big thing.
No, landlord stuff,
'Cause
really scary.
Growing up, my parents had rentals, and so
Yeah.
every time we had a renter move out, we had to go clean the duplex.
Yeah,
And like, I just don't know if I want that. I
yeah,
know I can have somebody do it for me, but
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And I want to, and it's right now is the ratio of like what you could get out of it. What am I trying to say? The cash flow ratio, is that a good thing? Do you have to find the right property?
Yeah, all those things. You do have to find the right property. I specialize in helping people invest in properties.
So don't sell me.
But what I'm trying to say is that your ability as an agent, I hope all of you online and here too, I want you not to think of yourselves as glorified door openers anymore. I don't want you to think of yourselves as signposters and open house presenters and, you know, those type of things. Those are transactional. And you'll get to a point, hopefully, that you don't even do them because you can hire people to do them, just like cleaning your rental property, right? Your ability as a professional, and I want you to think of that. I know it only took 120 hours or whatever to get your license. And sometimes you feel inadequate in terms of what you can help people with. But the more you do it, if this is your profession, be a professional. I want you to think of yourself as a CPA, as a lawyer, even though you didn't go to 3 or 4 years of school. If you've been in the industry for that long, you'll learn as you go through this. But I want you to know this is the power. This is the why people buy and sell properties. You might be the what they have to do to get through the transaction. They don't give you any value for that. I'm just telling you. Just like you don't. If you go to a restaurant and the food is absolutely amazing, and even the service is really good, do you talk about for days how good the waiter was?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
I've been a waitress.
Because you've been a waitress, yeah. But usually you don't.
Yeah.
Why not?
True. It's just like it's just expected.
Yeah, it's expected. It's an expectation. I love that.
Yeah.
It's an expectation.
Yeah.
And if your expectation if you're meeting people's expectations, are you standing out? Are you giving them something where they're like, I would never use anybody else but you? Now, obviously, if the convenience is there for you and they like you, they would. But the problem that we're facing right now is 3% on one side of the transaction for today's price of homes. That's a lot to pay because you give me a good expected service when someone else could give me the good expected service for 1%, right? So, but if you can talk to people about this and helping them build to grow wealth, there's value there that they can't replace that, right? It's so much more potent than just opening doors and putting signs in yards, basically. And I'm saying that's all we do. We do more than that, but they don't see a lot of that. Just like the waiter, you don't notice all the things the waiter's doing to serve all those tables and to go back and forth and to make sure everything happens just right and your food's hot and all that. But you usually don't give credit to the waiter for that. You give credit to the restaurant and to the cook, maybe, but not necessarily to the waiter that does the job. And I only say that because I know that we are having to overcome in our industry a problem with people feeling like we don't deserve the money we make. And if we don't make enough money, meaning have enough transactions, then if we only do one transaction a month, that $10,000 or $8,000 we get, we need every penny of it for the amount of work we put into it. But when you have 10 transactions or 12, I don't even charge, like I've been charging 5%, both sides of the commission. I say 5%. So we split it with the other side. I've been doing that for a while because Florida, that's everyone's 5% in Florida. It's like that's a standard now. And other states Utah has been the 6% state for a long time. I think it's funny. I have agents right now that's like, I'm upset because you're only offering 2.5 or 2% on the buyer side. You should, literally they'll say things like, it's like expected they should make. Anyway, I shouldn't get into that part of it. But what I'm trying to say is that if we want to be valued and we want people to honor and respect what we have to offer, this is where it's at. The rest of this stuff is just transactional. Okay. But as far as home equity, what I love about home equity discussions, and this is how I start the conversation, is I say that to them, how much equity do you have? Or I can see it. It shows you have about 400,000 equity. Does that sound right to you? Yeah. What are you doing with it? What do you mean? And they'll say things like, I don't want to sell my house. I'm at 3% interest rate. I'm not saying you need to, but that money that's sitting in that equity, that's unrealized gain, that's yours. Yeah, you could wait till you retire, but you're going to make an average of 4.7% a year on that. What if you could make 30%, 50%, 100%, on something like that, right? And you're leveraging living expenses from other people, and you're leveraging really low interest loans to do that. For example, if you take out a home equity, about what's the cost of a home equity right now? It's around 7%, 6.99. I just got one on mine, 6.99% interest on a home equity from my credit union, right? Okay. Now, if I could make 30 to 40% off of that money, is it worth paying 6.99 to get it?
Yeah.
Big time, isn't it?
Yeah.
And otherwise, how much am I making off of that money?
4.
Zero.
Oh, 0.
If it's equity, it's
Yeah,
zero,
it's
right?
0, yeah.
Would you like to learn how to do that? Would you like to learn how to do that?
Sure.
Okay. Should we have another course where you just come in and I'll show you how to do it with your own equity in your house? Yeah. That's how excited people get about this when I talk to them about it. That's why that family, who they are super conservative. It's funny. I mean, we're in Mormontown, so I'll say it. But she was like, well, we need to have 6 months of reserves. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't want anybody to feel like there's anything wrong with that. Sorry. But she's like, we need to have 6 months of cash from what he makes. And between the two of them, they make a lot of money. It's sitting in cash in their bank. And I said, how much interest are you making on it? She goes, about 2.5%. And you have that much? Well, yeah, but what if something comes up? I said, and have you ever used your emergency fund before? No. Her husband even got laid off and lost a job for a while, but they had 401k. They had other money and other ways of being all right. They've kept debt down and stuff like that. But this mentality, right, of having everything paid off. But there's nothing wrong with that, because I'm the same way. I want to be conservative. I don't want to just take a bunch of risks out there. But what I said to them is, what if you could leverage that towards building and growing wealth? What if you could manage your home finances like a business manages theirs? Do you think any business out there would let even $100,000 sit in a bank for 2.5% and just let it sit there? Would any business do that? No way. Why wouldn't they? It's a waste. Do you know how most big businesses make most of their money nowadays? How does Walmart make almost all their money? From their money. From their money. Their money works for you. You've probably heard those terms before about what? There are people out there that pay interest and people that make interest, right? Stuff like, right? You've heard those type of things. It's all true. So what I try to tell people about leveraging their equity, you've got not only unrealized gain did you work for that? You work 40 hours a week to make 100 grand a year. You have a home that's making 100 grand a year right now. Some of us do. I have a home that makes it on appreciation is averaging at 5%, something, well, it's about 50 grand, I guess. But see what I'm saying? It's a lot of money that's being made without me doing hardly anything. And if I have to clean up a rental property a couple of times, or whether I do it myself or I pay someone else, is that worth it? I'll work 40 hours a week to get a paycheck that I'm grinding away at. And usually I have all my expenses coming in and I have to pay it all out. And yet I can have property that's gaining all this money and I don't even need that because it's a side thing that's going on. And it just keeps continuing to grow and grow. So what I try to teach people is that this is what I say to them before I go into an appointment. I don't go into all these details. I just say, what would you like to do with that? And they're like, I don't know. I said, there's 5 things that you can do with your equity. Did you know that? There's 5 things you can do with your equity to help you build and grow wealth. One is, and I always start with this one as the first one because people always like to hear this because that's the first thing they're thinking of. Did you know you can pay off your home and your debt faster by leveraging equity? A lot of people don't know how it's done or what, and I'll teach you how this is done. I paid off my home about 15 years ago, completely paid it off. Then I took money out of it to do what? To invest in other properties. But as a business, I know what that means. I don't think of buying properties as an expense. Is buying properties an expense? It's what? It's an investment. There's a difference. A business has what? Well, I didn't go through the 5 things, sorry. The 5 things you can do, you can pay off your home or debt sooner. You can move up without it not only costing you any more money in your budget, but actually being in a better financial position. Did you know that? There are people we've helped people move up and actually be in a better financial position, budget-wise as well as overall in terms of equity gain. They had no idea that they could do that. What's the other thing you can do? You can downsize. How many people are getting close to retirement? They don't need their 6-bedroom house anymore because all their kids have moved out, but they keep the house for 2 times a year, Christmas and Thanksgiving, and their house needs to be repaired and all these type of things. Guess what they should do with that house? sell it, take that equity and buy 3 properties. The one they live in, rent out 2 other properties, put 100,000 or so down on each one of those properties. Make sure you put enough down that the other 2 mortgages pays for the 3rd one, so that you're living in your house rent free. It'd be like paying off your house in a sense, right? Isn't that the same thing? You've paid off your house because it's rent free. The other 2 mortgages are being paid by what? The renters, right? And then what are all 3 of those properties going to do over time? Appreciate over time. Would you like to have your nest egg grow through retirement instead of shrink? Okay, is this not powerful? This is powerful stuff. What's the 3rd way you can do it? You can relocate. How many of you would like to live closer to work or closer to home or family? I mean, or closer, or maybe further away from family. Would like to live in the country and have a bigger space. Would like to go back downtown and live. You know, there's all sorts of things that they want to do. How would you like to relocate and have it actually be something that you could do? And believe it or not, your equity, leveraging that equity, can actually give you the ability to do it without it changing your budget. Most people are concerned about, well, I'm not making any more money. I can't move up. I can't do all those things I want to do. But that's the crazy thing, is they want to do it. They just haven't been told how that they can do it. So we talk about that. So they can move down. They can also invest in property, right? So we've gone through the 4, right? What do we go through again? You can pay off debt and home faster. You can upsize. You can downsize. You can relocate, and you can invest. Those are the 5 ways you can do that. Okay. And I tell them that's what you can do. And then before I go into any more details, remember, you don't want to have to go. I know I've explained a lot to you, but when I'm on the phone with them, I say, those are the 5 things you can do. And I might even say, I've paid off my home and then I started investing in properties. I can't believe how great this has been. I can help you do the same thing. You know, how good it's been for us. Would you like to come in and we can talk about which one of those 5 is best for you? How many of you would like to do that? Anybody here? I'll do it with you if you want. Okay. That's what that discussion is about. Once you learn how to do these type of things as a real estate agent, you have power and you have the ability to get anyone in that stage of the life cycle of building and growing equity. How many people in the United States right now have equity that own homes?
Like what, 50% equity in their homes?
Yeah, the average equity amount that people have right now is $280,000 in their house, and they're earning nothing off it. And how many people? Now, this is where when we meet and talk about this, the reason it works. How do you do that? How do you leverage equity to pay off debt and pay off your home? How does that work? Well, most people don't. They take their mortgage and they put it over here, and then they take their revolving expenses over here. These over here cost them a lot more and don't give them any gain. And these give them a whole bunch of gain, and it just sits there and does nothing. What are these over here? The average American right now, guess how much, or homeowner, I should say, has an average of $280,000 in equity. They have an average of $104,000 in revolving debt, an average. Now, you might think that's awful, but how many people own a car? How much does it cost to buy a car out today? $50,000 for just a car. You have 2 cars. There's $100,000 right there. They don't think of it that way because they're thinking about it in terms of what? Monthly payment. That's what they're thinking about. They don't think about it in terms of, oh, I've got $110,000 in debt. As a matter of fact, when I go through this with a lot of them, they're amazed at how much debt they have. They're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know I had that much debt, because they think about it in terms of what? Monthly payments. This is what I can afford each month. Then when I say you've got $380,000 or whatever in equity over here, and you've got $104,000 in debt over here. Okay. So what I'm going to show you how to do is I'm going to show you how to pay off that debt with your equity and then buy your next place or or invest or whatever you're going to do. And now it may sound crazy to you, because back in 2006, people would do it. They would get a mortgage or they would refinance their house, right? Or get a line of credit on their home, and then they would pay off debt. Their debt's always depreciating assets. They would buy more depreciation. Oh, I'm going to buy a boat. I'm going to go on vacation. I'm going to do this. You teach them how to take that money now that's extra to them and invest. We call it a blended rate. And this is when they have an interest rate issue. My interest rate's at 3%. So great. And this will help answer your question. This is one way I answer that question. Yeah, you have a 3% interest rate over here, but in your revolving debt, you know how much interest rate you're paying there? It's usually around, like if you have a credit card, what's the average credit card debt right now? 18 to 25%, somewhere around there. Some are even higher than that, but that's about what they're paying. Is that a lot of money to pay for borrowing money, that's crazy amount of money to pay for. The car debt right now, I mean, sometimes you can get some good ones. You're maybe at 6-7%, somewhere around that, right? But you're doing it over a 5-year period of time instead of over a 30-year period of time. Now, is that a good idea to put a short-term debt on a long-term note? You'd think, no, it's not a good thing to do. However, just to give you an idea, and I always like to use examples when I talk to people about this, we had a family, they had a home that was worth about they had about $275,000 in equity, and they had $106,000 in debt. So like right around almost exactly what the national average was. And this is a real story. I mean, Braden can account to this because we helped the Johnson family do this. So basically we had them pay off their debt. They were paying on average for this debt about, I think it was like $3,400, if I remember correctly, a month off of this debt. This was at a 4.25% interest rate. So they had like a $1,600 a month mortgage payment, which is crazy to have a house, for that price, right? But if you add the two up, how much were they paying every single month? They're paying $5,000 a month, sorry. And the blended rate was about 12%. They were paying on average about 12% per month when you blended the rates that they're paying between the two. Does that make sense, what I'm talking about here? So can everyone see it on here, kind of? I move this way more. Maybe I should come this way. Okay, is this better? Okay, so dang camera. So they were paying this much money per month. They went from a small I think this was a 4 or 3 bedroom. It was a 1,600 square foot house. I know that. And they were running their business.
4 bedroom.
Yeah. They're running their business out of it. So they had their dog grooming business. You probably heard that story before with this family. But basically, they're paying $1,600 a month. What did I write that 1,600 for? I can't remember.
How many square feet it was.
Oh, yeah, that's so many square feet it was. They're also paying about that much per month for it. Yeah. So 1,600 square feet. They're now in a 5,400, is it? Unfinished basement, but it's like 4,800. So 4,800 square feet house with 3-car garage, put their business. This is now a 700. So they went from a house that I think we sold it for 485. So we sold, oh, you remember this? Yeah. Oh, she remembers that. We sold that house for 45. Yeah. And did it smell like dog? It smelled so good. No dog smell or ferrets or anything else they had in that house. So we followed all that stuff, right? To make it so it didn't smell bad. It went under contract within 5 days, 4, 6.
We got 11 showing requests in the first 2 hours.
Yeah, it was crazy. How, I mean, and when we did comps, this house was only about 450, I think it was. Yeah. So, and then it got over asking anyway. So we did really well on this. We converted this to a $720,000 home. Oops, $720,000 home. We paid off their debt, right? And the mortgage, your lender can help you do all this. They have calculators that do all this. So I went there with mine because I can do it with them. And I went through this preliminarily to kind of give them an idea of what this could be. You bring them into an appointment with your lender, but don't call them your lender. Just say, hey, we've got a calculator we use. We help you prepare and know what you can do with it, but we kind of walk through this. They were thinking for years about moving out of a home. We got them to do it within a few months, okay? So they went to a $720,000 home. Guess how much their mortgage was after they they paid off the $106,000. That left them over 160, I can't remember, thousand for the down payment or for the, to put down on it. So their monthly payment ended up was like 3,800. 3,400? Huh? 35. Well, okay. So $3,500 a month, right? Somewhere around there. So if they were paying $5,000 a month for all their expenses, now they're paying $3,500 a month. How much are they saving per month? $1,500 per month, right?
And they're debt free.
And they're debt free as well. And which they love being debt free with that kind of stuff. By the way, he sold his one car and bought another sports car out of it. Did you know that? He thought it's crazy. Yeah. He loved cars. He sold that Jeep. He sold that. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, we get sidetracked here. Okay. So then he has $1,500 a month. Now, if he was switching from a home that only had, I think it had like 22 years left on the loan. I can't remember. I think he had like 22 years left on the loan, right? He was only paying $1,600 a month, right? Now he's going from a 22-year obligation to how many years? 30 years, okay? Is that all? Does that sound like a good financial decision? It has still helped them. They got into a nicer, bigger home. That home appreciates it more value. By the way, what they're making per year at 720 compared to even if their house was worth 485, if they each appreciate at 5%, this is making about 37,000 K per year in appreciation gain. This is making about 20,000. So he's making an extra 17,000 a year. Does that make sense in terms of appreciation? So this is giving them a better financial position to be in. Everyone following that? But on top of that, this $1,500, this is what I told them. Keep $500 a month. You have extra money. You moved into a bigger house, a nicer house, a better place for your family. It's going to gain more money for you. And instead of your budget being worse, it's now better. You got an extra $500 a month. Guess what we told them to do with the other $1,000 a month? Not just invest it. Guess what they invested in? Another home. They could be. Hookers is what Sam wants. And see where his mind is. What should they really do with this money, Denise? You know. The principal payment. So we told them we can project this out. If you put $1,000 extra a month to your mortgage payment on this, I can't draw it. An arrow. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. If you pay $1,000 extra a month towards your mortgage payment, we calculated this out. Guess how soon they would pay off all that debt and the $720,000 house? It was 18 years. How'd you know that? It was a 17 or 18. I think it was 18. Yeah, it was like 18. So basically, they shaved off how many years? 4 years. They shaved off 4 years having a house that's better for them, bigger for them, that's going to appreciate more, and they're going to pay off all the debt and the house sooner than if they would have just kept the other house in the debt. And they would still have to have paid that debt. You see what I'm saying? It's actually ridiculous that people don't see what they can do with their equity. It's crazy. So the best conversation you can have out there, folks, if they're a renter, if you're not getting them into their first place and giving them a plan to do that, you're not providing your SOI with the kind of value that you have to offer. If you're not helping people with equity just sitting there in their house, kind of get to that next step. Now, we also teach them how to do other things like, how do you get the right renter in? How do you manage that kind of stuff? But I will tell them when people have that, doubt there, I tell them, how many hours do you work a week to make what you're making per year? Most people are like at least 40, if not more. A lot of people working 50, 60 hours. If you're an agent, you're working 80 or 90. But you're working a lot of hours. I'm saying the amount of time that you have to put into a house to clean it once a year, to maybe cosmetically fix it up, the scares, if you're scared about getting the wrong renters in there, we'll teach you the best way. We use home warranties to take care of all the fixes. So we don't use property management companies. Sorry, if you're a property manager, I don't use property management companies, but we'll teach you so that you can teach them how to do things like that. And it's worth it. I promise you it is. We've been renting for 35 years. We've had issues. I'm not saying that everything was just hunky-dory every moment of the time. We got through them. The amount of money that we made was how many of you have had issues at work, have had other struggles and stuff that you had to go through, and how many hours that you spent with it? The amount of time that you put into your rental properties and the gain that you can get from it is so much more than you would ever even get just doing a regular job. Sorry I took so much time today. Do we have questions? Someone?
Oh, I was going to say really quick too, because it seems like this new generation, and tell me if I'm just getting these buyers, but they're all thinking they need to save at least 20% down. But if you show them that cost of waiting calculator, that's a huge eye opener, because a lot of times people need to actually see it to process it. And so get with your lender, have them run a cost of waiting calculator, because like Mike said, they can't save as much as it's appreciating every year. And once they realize that, it's a game changer for them.
Yeah. Okay, so next steps. This is our last Monday class. We will send out to you Tuesday, Thursday opportunities to have a discussion. More than me, I have to actually step away so that I don't sit there and try to teach you or something. That's just a stupid habit I have, where you can ask questions and get engaged more and talk about, hey, I wanted to do this, or I like this, or have someone like Robert talk about what he's done with views and things like that. That's what we're going to do with that. Okay. We will be calling you individually to help to take all these things that we've done and even still working on to get it over to your site and your CRM, so that happens in a very good way for you, not a bad way. And then there'll be more courses added. So go through those courses. Please keep, in touch and help us help you become that agent that you want, making a great deal of money, doing it faster and more efficiently, being more organized about it, and then having the kind of support that you need, both in your systems as well as in what we can do in coaching to help you succeed. And that's what we're here for. So help us help you to do that. Okay. Have a wonderful week, but I'll see you again, I'm sure, and talk to you again. But know that we're here for you, and this isn't the end. Okay.
Mike,
Love
can I
you.
share real fast?
Oh, sorry. I forgot
No,
it.
you're good.
Dang it.
I'll be
Yeah.
quick.
Okay.
So we talked about, we've been teasing, and for everyone online, I'm going to share my screen so everyone can see it. But we've been talking to you guys a little bit about the affiliate program, and we've partnered with our investors are all in on this. So they're willing to to kick back a portion of the subscription every single month for you guys as agents to refer. This camera went with Mike. There we go. To refer new agents who you guys are all working. You got other agents at your brokerage. You got family. You've got, agents you're working with on a daily basis. If you want to bring them into the Captivate coaching program and CRM, we are kicking back $40 a month. Here, sorry, it's sharing my screen. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. So I'm just on captivateagent.com. Underneath the affiliate, Captivate on the top menu here at Captivate Affiliate, you have this program. That's this page I'm on now. This goes through all of the details of the affiliate program, and this is super easy. This is not a difficult program. Everybody in today's world would rather buy from somebody who they're friends with versus somebody who's trying to sell them something. So that's why we as Captivate, we're like, instead of us ramping up a sales team to go out and try to bring in new agents, why not use the relationships that we already have? Because you guys are going to share them. You're going to be working with agents anyway, sharing best practices. I know many of you are part of different coaching programs, right, Deneen? Different groups where you're bringing in different agents and you're sharing kind of best practices and things that you guys do. So we said, let's invest in our agents instead of trying to invest in more internal sales team. We don't want that. We would rather bring on more Bradens to help you guys be better at be better working through the system. Yeah, there's only one Braden, but we can definitely try bringing more. But anyway, so how it works is we're going to pay out 2 tiers of this. Okay, so for the first tier, we've got $50 of every month. So Sam, if you bring in somebody, a friend, I know you've brought a couple of business partners in the past into the classes. So if one of them signs up and they're paying their monthly subscription, which is $447, you will make $40 on them every single month that they pay for that. Okay. Everybody online understand that? You'll make $40 every single month. So if they're with us for 12 months, that's 40 times 12. What's the math on that, Brady? Huh? $480. Okay. You'll make $480 on that one. The reason why we wanted to do this affiliate program is not only because you guys are real estate agents, you're talking to people all the time, right? But we know that the cost, we don't want it to be burdensome and a reason for you not to want to participate. So it creates an opportunity for you to help offset some of those monthly costs that you guys have. Another great part of this is, why stop there if you want to actually begin to make an actual residual income with this? You could continue to share it. Some of you, I know we have different members of this focus group that are actually brokers or team leaders. This is a recruiting tool. Okay, we have many that are already using it, and that's their plan, is to use this as recruit people into their team, whether they're brokerage or not. This is an opportunity to get, again, build that leveraged income every single month beyond just what you're doing from a real estate standpoint. Okay, so we put this together. It's super easy to register. So if you guys want to be a part of this, all you got to go to is this affiliate program. Here's where you'll learn the information. Click on register, and then you'll just put in, it's just a simple registration form, and make sure you're logged in. Okay, on the very top, you guys all have a website, so make sure you're logged in. And for any of you guys that know somebody who wants to sell, to be a part of getting this story out to others, and you're not an agent, which we do have a few in our Captivate focus group that have spouses that are in this realm. You do not have to be buying the subscription. It's not a pay to play. Anybody can be an affiliate for us. Okay. So you go in there, you register, and then it will get what you'll get now underneath Captivate affiliate, this affiliate area link. You now have your own back office. Okay. This is your own. Now let's not confuse it with your CRM back office. This is your affiliate back office. So I can actually track all of my affiliate activity. So if I take my affiliate link and throw it on my social media for all of my agents that I'm networked with or whatever it may be, I can see how many come in through my affiliate network onto captivateagent.com. It's tied to you. It's connected to you. And then I can see what my conversion rate, my all-time access, my paid earnings, all that kind of stuff. I can see all my graphs, my statistics. And then this right here, this affiliate URL, and sorry, I'm logged in as an admin on the site, so it's a little bit slow. It's actually directly connected to you. So if I copy this link and I send this out, it's tied to you, Jana. That's your affiliate link. Okay. I can even share it directly to Facebook, to email, to Twitter, or formerly known as Twitter, to X. And it will, anyone who comes in and populates into that and searches that, it's tied to you. Okay. And then I will say we are going to pay out every single month. Okay, this is not something where it's once a year. We will pay out on your affiliate referrals, and we already have some in this group that have earned referrals. The way to get paid out is this little icon in your little back office right here. This little icon says, hey, this is your reminder. Welcome to Captivate Agent Affiliate Program to start receiving referral commissions. It's important to register for payout services. Payout services is a partner into the affiliate system that we bought. They handle all of your transactions in and out. So when we collect money, we leave it in our Stripe account and then we send it to payout services and they handle it. They'll handle 1099s. They'll handle any of that stuff for you. Super easy. And you can directly connect a debit card. It's that easy. You don't have to, you can connect your bank account or whatever, or it can be a debit card, which pays you directly every single month. Okay. And then the way you would do that is you just click this little drop down. So this right here would be your icon saying, hey, this is you. Go to your settings. Again, it's a little bit, there we go. Go to your settings. This is the information right here, your payout settings. This is where I just put in my personal information, date of birth, read the terms of use here. This is payout services terms of use. And then you click on that and then you register. It's that simple. And then we'll start paying you out every single month for your referrals. Okay.
Is the price for the other people $447?
$447. Yep.
Everything.
They get everything. Yeah, that's the full coaching. That's everything that Braden, Mike, because we're going to be doing coaching ongoing as well. It's for coaching as well in the group scenario. Again, it'll be like the group scenario like we're doing here. It'll be that. So there still is that if they want to pay for that. It would be more of a in-person small group, very small, going start to finish all the way through the Captivate coaching like Mike did before this. And I think most of you participated in that. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Anyone online? Any questions with that? Let me see the chat here. Nope. Okay.
Thank you.
Simple as that. Thank you guys. And we will stay in touch. You guys will be invited as we continue to coach forward on a weekly basis. I'll make sure that you guys are all included in that. Okay. Thanks, everybody.